Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Well, yesterday, this time, half of the election had gone, well, by the end of the program anyway, that is to say, in the Senate, but then there was still there's still the House of Representatives to be done. And indeed, it was done, and we now have the principal officers in the National Assembly. But there has been something of an outcry because the National Assembly elections yesterday indeed turned out to be something of an upheaval, as we now have the ruling APC and the opposition PDP heading up the Senate of the Federal Republic. You know all about that. I think we have a sound clip of the Senate President in his acceptance speech. Let's just listen to that, and then we'll come back and we'll look at this and what you think is the import of this. There are those who are saying, well, you know the way it is, we got to take what we get, and it is as if it can be seen in the light that it's good for our democracy. The APC is having none of that. It is livid, because, as you know, the principal officers that emerged in the National Assembly were not as indicated or recommended or suggested by the ruling APC. The Senate went its own way. The APC member that has become the Senate president broke ranks, let it be said, while the other colleagues, because as you know, there are 108 of them in the Senate, 57, mostly opposition PDP, actually made yesterday possible. Now, all the others, the 51 others, were at a meeting at the time that this election was going on. So let's just see Senate President Bukola Saraki's acceptance speech, and then we'll come back, and of course, we'll take your call. It's going to be an open access kind of a thing to just hear what you think about what's going on.
And I accept this call to serve with humility, responsibility, and sense of duty. That even though we may belong to different persuasions and parties, we are ultimately united by a common desire to entrench democracy and allow its core principles guide the conduct of our political affairs.
Okay, so there you have it, short and sharp. It's all history now. But as far as the ruling APC is concerned, there is still more work to be done. It will be having some, shall we say, talks with its members and to find out how exactly things went the way that it didn't expect. In that sense, it's seen as something of an upheaval. The lines are open. You can call in. And of course, there are also those who are saying that, look, we've been here before, and it would appear as if the shoe is on the other foot. So it brings us back to the whole question of party discipline in Nigerian politics. Now we've seen two parties. At one time, it was the then ruling party, now opposition PDP, that, in the House of Representatives broke ranks with its leadership and went its way. Now it has happened with the APC, where principal members, key members, have broken ranks with the body of the party. We have Olajide on the line immediately calling in from Abule Egba. How are you, Mr. Olajide? Thank you for calling in.
I'm fine, Mr. Ayoli. Good morning.
Thank you.
How's everything, sir?
Very well. What do you think about the upheaval in the National Assembly, if that is what you think it is?
Yes. That is what everybody thinking. But the point I want to bring out from what transpired is that the APC, I don't want them to see this thing as I don't know the adjective I can use to qualify it, but I don't want APC to give PDP room to enter there, because I listened to Dan Nwaya this morning on AIT when he was commenting that, and in fact, I was more interested. If they give us an opportunity to call, the way we used to call it in CBC, it would have been another thing entirely. For him to be commenting that this is the time for PDP to penetrate because they have the house now, the Saraki and the Kure Madu combination of them, they are still PDP and all those things. He was making some comment that is not palatable for our democracy. But that is, by the way, that is his own opinion. But to me, APC should please, for goodness sake, there is another thing is to win an election, and another thing is to manage what should I call it? Another thing is to win the election, and another thing is to manage the success.
All right, then. Well, I hear you, Mr. Lajide. Thank you very much for calling in. As I said, the party that the Senate President belongs to is not amused at all. In fact, there has been talk about there will be meetings held to see how the party members can be whipped back into line, that this has to be sorted out. What can we do without discipline? And you know the way it's been going. But we now have a situation where there's a leadership in place. How it's going to work with APC at the center and then key National Assembly, we now have a leadership. Both of them, of course, operating the Senate President and of course, similar things happened in the House of Representatives in the sense that the APC member that is there is not that was quote unquote anointed by the party. But again, there are those who have been querying the whole thing. Senate President Saraki had made the point in his not acceptance speech, when he was speaking with the press shortly after having been sworn in. He talked about appreciation for letting the National Assembly, the Senate, do its job and elect its leadership from within itself. He made those comments. Mr. Lawale has called in. Good morning, Mr. Lawale from Ikorodu. How do you see the way this is going to work? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Yori Folani, and God bless you. You see, we are not saying that National Assembly should not appoint their own preferred candidates. But everywhere in the world, it's an important concept in political science. It is called party supremacy and party discipline. Look, if you are not ready to toe the party line, then you are a traitor. Why should they, even if Saraki at all costs wanted to become the Senate President, why did he not allow others who are holding meetings with the party hierarchy to come? He can still win if he's so popular. So why did they now decide, at the time they were holding an important meeting with the party hierarchy, they now converge at the National Assembly Senate wing to hold, to carry out the inauguration? I mean, it is
the election.
Very bad. You have allowed the PDP to come back to government through the back door. Through the back door. And why did they give former Senate President such a preferential treatment yesterday? A senator-elect is a senator-elect, whether you have been there more than 20 times. Okay? He was sworn in separately from others. That is not, you are still bowing down to the PDP. This is the PDP that the whole country rejected, that for the past 60 years, the opposition party has been pointing out the inadequacies, and they are the ones you have now given key role in the National Assembly.
Indeed.
I think Saraki is going to be a sellout. God bless you.
Thank you very much for calling in. Opinions that are coming from out there are entirely, those of the people who offer them. But thank you very much, Mr. Lawale, for your call there. You talked about the Deputy Senate President in there, Senator Ekweremadu. Now, his emergence, according to newspaper reports, followed an understanding, shall I say, not to use the word deal, followed an understanding that was reached allegedly in the house of the former Senate President, where all of this was sort of agreed that, look, if Saraki gets the support to be elected, then somehow they would concede this Deputy Senate President chair to Senator Ekweremadu. So this understanding was reached, allegedly, according to newspaper reports, which is entirely at variance with that of the ruling APC. I understand Reverend Dominic is on the line. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Yori.
Thank you for calling in, Reverend.
Yeah, but straight away, I'm a Christian, you know. What kept Israel in wilderness for 40 years was what my Bible tells me, and every scholar knows, is what we call mixed multitude. Now, the mixed multitude, if you can give me 1 second to explain to people who don't understand, were Egyptians who followed the Israelites and they kept the wrath of God in Egypt. When they came to the wilderness, they become a clog in the wheel of progress. Every time they want to return back where they're coming from. Now, that mix of multitude, we knew is existing in so-called APC. The Saraki's that came into APC were this mixed multitude. They don't have discipline. They are not what they call the progressives. But what will we do? Today the change has come, but the worst will be the Nigerians. I have a PhD degree in history. In 1999, we started in this footing, and you know what happened? The party PDP wanted Okadibo. Now the same Senegal brought in Enwunem, and you know how Senegal become a banana peel till Obasanjo. I don't know what happened, but the message here is this: if APC starts in this footing, Nigeria will suffer a great deal. Thank you for Nigeria.
Thank you very much for calling in, Reverend Dominic. Interesting, the point I was making just before Reverend Dominic called in, if there's any substance to it that the plot, understanding, was reached before the actual election at a meeting of all of the people, the 57 senators elect. So you have a 108 House, and the strategic moves, and you have a 57 senators electing. Of course, there also were some APC senators-elect that, sort of also lent their weight to the whole affair. All of these things, it was Mr. Lawale who referred to the whole matter of party discipline. Because what went on, allegedly, in the premises, in the house of Senator David Mark, where this whole understanding was reached, I guess that's really the preserve of the party, the ruling party. But then here we are, the senators would appear to have said under certain leadership that, well, you know what, whatever be the case, we still have the ability to elect ourselves, and we shall so do. Mr. Adewale is calling in from Maryland. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in. How do you see it?
At the last, what happened yesterday is a democracy coup. What happened yesterday? I think Mr. President, he did a big mistake to come out publicly and said he don't want to have anything to do with anybody who emerged as the winner of the Senate or the National Assembly. So he does not have any preferred candidate. As the president of the nation, you have to have interest in that leadership. Because that is the people that are going to give you the backing to succeed as a president. This is not a military regime. That you can pass anything you like. This is a democracy. You want somebody that can be able to carry your own party and the president's agenda. But what happened yesterday, the people that were rejected, that they have mismanaged the economy of this country, they are the ones who emerged yesterday.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in. But I'd like to point out, and I'm sure you've seen it already, the presidents, the people, it is a desirable, this separation of powers business. And the president had said, as you sort of indicated, that he doesn't have a preferred candidate. And he has said, by the way, in relation to this case, that he would work with the leadership that has emerged. And the interesting expression that quote accredited to the president, that a constitutional process has, what was that word now? Somewhat occurred. A constitutional process has somewhat occurred. It's clear the president would have preferred party discipline, but then that's what we have. And there are rules of engagement. In fact, those very rules are what have been applied in this situation in an unexpected way. So that's the situation we have on our hands. So you probably understand it from Mr. President's perspective that I'm not interfering. There's a separation of powers. Let the National Assembly do what they need to do. The presidency will do what it needs to do. And, You can't have the president interfering in the judiciary, those kind of things. Yes, someone else on the line? Sam Olisa. Good morning, Mr. Olisa.
Good morning, Yori. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah.
So how do you see this? People have said, look, if the public, if the general public, if they are the beneficiary at the end of the day, well, let it be. What do you think?
Before the general public are the beneficiary, party came. They won on party basis. Today in Nigeria, there is no independent candidacy. So when there is party discipline, a party supremacy, a party vision, I think personal interest to be set aside. What happened yesterday? Well, people can say it's good for democracy. That it's risky. Risky in the sense that for the next 4 years, a lot of events will begin to unravel. If people now begin to use their personal interest, I think the president too should know that it is risky for him to run smoothly, to carry out his programs, because those that lost generally, you can see how the PDP people were celebrating it, they are rejoicing, they're back in the house. But, my conclusion is that the house is the house, they cannot change. They are there for their self-interest. So at the end of the day, whosoever is the president of the Senate, whosoever is the speaker, as we have seen in the last 16 years, they are there for their personal interest, not for national interest. And they have demonstrated it once again. Let us remain focused. Events will eventually show that the people will win. We will win. Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Sam Olisa, for calling in. The APC has, outrightly rejected. Well, when I say rejected, it has expressed its displeasure, and it has referred to the whole exercise as, quote, indiscipline and, quote, treachery. You can probably understand the point of view of the APC. But the deed is done, and we have a situation on our hands where it remains to be seen how it is going to work. The other thing that is annoying the ruling APC is that, let me see, there's a quote here, apart from the act of indiscipline and betrayal, there's also the charge from the APC that this whole exercise is subjecting the party to ridicule and also creating obstacles for the new administration. Because it remains to be seen how clearly Senator Bukola Saraki, Senate President Bukola Saraki, he's a recent entrant into APC, so he has very, very close ties with his other senator colleagues. And there's this whole situation where it would appear that the whole process was hijacked by a man of power, and one wonders what that portends for peaceful coexistence within the party, and particularly the 51 senators that were at a meeting while all of that was going on in the National Assembly. Lord knows how they will be feeling right now. Paul is on the line. Good morning, sir. Paul?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Do you want to say something? You're on air.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, what happened yesterday, I will say, has shown the independence of the legislation and separation of power. But I think APC got it wrong. We shouldn't blame the coup that happened. They fixed that meeting wrongly. They would have had their meeting probably earlier or overnight. Definitely, they would have still won, carried the day. But unfortunately, they miscalculated because the clerk of the House and the National Assembly staff are not answerable to either APC or PDP. And I think that is the crux of the whole thing. And when they got the wind of it, before you know it, the bubble has busted. But I think APC should learn a big lesson from this. But that notwithstanding, I think they were smart enough in the House of Rep because the issue of the Speaker was suspended. The Deputy Speaker was suspended. and for everything, even internal democracy, thorough, truthful internal democracy should be allowed. Personally, as a person, as a Nigerian, I feel this is going to give a lot of check and balance to the entire nation. APC still have majority in the Senate, but they should see that everybody's interest is carried along. If you look at the zoning now, let's see, the president is from the north-west, vice president from the west, southwest, Senate president is now coming from the north-central, which is Saraki. And more so, if you look at the combination of parties that form PDP, APC, sorry, you will know definitely that this is a sharing formula. He wants equity must come with a clean hand. You cannot have a CPC man, because I think, what is it called, this other guy, Lawa, is another CPC guy who would have come on board as the president. So I think every indices should be taken cognizance of, and they should put their house in order. It's most painful that Badamia lost speakership, because that would have been the best candidate for that house. And that would have cemented everything. Having our number one in North Central, Northeast, two from Southwest, North Central now, then maybe the speaker will come from Southwest, and then Northeast, every corner. Now, I think they should start thinking of South-South. Somebody from South-South to be the deputy speaker.
Okay.
You see have Samson there.
Okay.
Samson from APC.
All right, then.
Guy.
Thank you very much for calling in. Appreciate your call. As you said, your point of view is that APC goofed in the way they scheduled that meeting and so on and so on. But you know how they say that hindsight is always 20/20 vision. But I just note what you've said. There's this whole question of discipline, party discipline. The APC must be more than irritated about all of this, and has alleged that inordinate ambition was what was at play here, and that didn't bode well for democracy and party supremacy. I'll come back very, very shortly. We just got to take a commercial break. Continue to get your perspectives on what has happened and what is its effect. But stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and we're looking at the fallout, if any, from the, shall we say, National Assembly elections upheaval yesterday. Now, all of that came about, according to reports, following from what is referred to, and I quote specifically from reports, the last-minute deal between PDP and Saraki, sealed at the residence of former Senate President David Mark in Abuja on Sunday. So that's how all of what happened happened. So the APC were busy sorting themselves out, fixing how they wanted things to go, and Senator Saraki and senators-elect. But the meeting also included, the meeting that held on Sunday and that ended in the wee hours of Monday, according to reports, also included PDP governors. And the outcome of it all is that we have Senator Bukola Saraki as the Senate President, and continuing in the role of Deputy Senate President is Senator Ekweremadu. Now we have our policy analyst has come in, Mr. Demola Oshodi. Thank you very much for coming on, Demola.
Thank you.
is it, and do you think it's overstating the case to describe what happened yesterday in the National Assembly election as an upheaval?
Definitely disappointing for some people. I don't know about upheaval. That could be very subjective. But yes, it's the outcome surprised a lot of people. Surprised me, and also surprised the party APC establishment in some case. So it was basically seen as a renegade or rebellious part of the party that took ownership of the leadership of the National Assembly, both chambers of the National Assembly.
So this is the way sometimes democracy can go.
Yes.
Because there are rules of engagement in the different spheres of governance.
Yes.
And those rules can sometimes be exploited because there have to be these understandings anyway. Otherwise, there's no party. There won't be party supremacy, and if there's no party supremacy, quite frankly, it becomes a sort of a free for all.
Absolutely.
So we can't really have that. And APC has alleged outright that it's inordinate ambition at work. That's their charge, as they say that they're going to be meeting to see to impose disciplinary measures where necessary.
Absolutely. Well, that's that's something that we need to see that happens. Obviously, the development yesterday was quite new to them and quite unusual to many cases, because what you're seeing now is the opposition, the People's Democratic Party (PDP), basically taking charge of both of definitely the Senate. You have a Senate president. You have a Senate
when you
president.
say taking charge,
well, let me tell you why.
The Senate president is APC.
Well, that's it is on paper. But the bulk of his support, more than 80% of his support, came in from the opposition PDP party. So that's who's going to be basically beholden to them. The committee chairmen are going to be mainly dominated by PDP. The influence is going to come from PDP because those are the people that will retain him there. If there's going to be a remove, if it's going to be removed, the PDP people is going to be people he's going to count on to save his job. So yeah, so it is technically a PDP. Leadership in both chambers of the party.
In an APC garb.
In an APC garb, exactly. And even have a deputy president as a PDP person. So it's very unusual. It's really uncharted territory in Nigeria. It's the opposition is meant to basically be.
You study these kind of things, and I was wondering. You just said it's uncharted territory. We haven't seen it. This is the first time in 16 years I was seeing on one paper. I think it was The Nation in their article. The Nation says this is the first time in 16 years that the Senate will be ruled by opposing political parties.
Yes. Well,
has it happened anywhere else, beyond our shores?
Well, I'm sure it's happened in some other emerging democracy where the institutions are weak. Nigeria still has.
Do you think that's what caused this? Weak institutions?
Of course. With the party system, the legislature, the due process has not been followed. In advanced democracies, the party line is usually followed. It's usually followed. But I think what happened is the fact that, what happened with the Tamboa leadership 4 years ago, as many have replicated itself now. They basically say, well, if they can do that, then they can do it now. And a lot of it is revenge. A lot of it is, is positioning for power and for relevance. So it's politics at its play. The outcome is obviously what amazes everybody.
This whole matter of the PDP, I beg your pardon, the APC sentiment that, look, it views what has happened as not just a betrayal, not just trying to subject the party to ridicule, but also, and perhaps very, very importantly, creating obstacles for the new administration. I saw one headline, I think that was in The Cable, which is an online publication, The Cable, saying that President Buhari was baffled by what has happened.
Yes, it's definitely going to could potentially cause problems for the presidency. But again, this is what we need in a healthy democracy.
Okay.
We need a strong opposition.
Because this has to be overcome in one way or the other.
Yes.
And we have to get back on track, get down with the business of governance, because that's It's change
It
that
is.
the people voted for.
Absolutely. They voted for change. They voted for the APC to
And they
to
voted for
lead.
APC to implement that change.
They voted for APC to lead the executive. They voted for APC to lead the legislature with
Yes.
the numerical advantage they
Yes.
have there. So this is going against that.
That's a big problem, because when people were voting for the APC and voting for change,
Yes.
I don't think anybody in his wildest dreams had a notion that the legislature would, somehow be in the hands of the opposition. Although one can't say that strictly, because one goes back to the point that Senator Bukola Saraki is an APC member.
Yes.
The gentleman in the House of Representatives is also an APC member.
Exactly.
So we're talking technicalities here, right?
We are. But there's also pragmatism. There's also a realistic point of view, perspective, which is also the fact that people that bring you there, just like in Tambora, the APC machinery brought Tambora in, and we also have Tambora was very supportive of APC, leadership in the House, APC policies generally. So it's something that is happening again. How it's managed is different thing. But now it's PDP's behind the scene in both chambers.
Yes.
Tambora was just a House of Rep.
Yes.
Now we have PDP behind in the Senate, behind in the House of Rep. So it's rather unusual.
Let's see what Victory thinks about that. Calling in from Yaba. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to your guest in the studio. Based on the ways national issues have been deliberated upon in our country for some time now, Nigeria certainly, from an empirical observation, is a country where politicians do not keep to agreements. Check the antecedents from top to base, east to west, big or small. Not keeping to agreement has become a norm. In fact, a way of national life. The rat race in politics in Nigeria today is traceable to the tendency and productivity of people not respecting agreement, as well as the rule of law. Politicians in Nigeria should embrace leadership integrity as a credential for their campaign promises. However, with what has happened yesterday, it is obvious that the post-election era has a lot to unfold. Because as far as I'm concerned, you have the same set of politicians that are still there who never embraced or care about change until now want to actualize change or practice national interest. Uncle Yori, time will tell. I just hope this doesn't bring us into another calamity.
All right, then. Thank you very much for calling in, Victory. We're all still trying to understand it and see how this whole exercise is going to work. But the APC has work on its hands. First of all, it must have learned a heck of a lesson from this. And these are part of the challenges, probably, of the coming together of, in some cases, disparate fellows to form the APC, without which the coalition, without that coalition, APC would not have, been successful in the elections.
Yes.
And so there are some collateral issues that are now beginning to come up. Because if APC was, shall we say, a pure stock, and I don't mean the opposite of that in a pejorative way, but if it was a pure stock, then this would not have happened. There would be, there always have been, even APC has sort of wanted to go its own way, but the matters have always been resolvable. This one, as the APC was doing its own in preparation for this election, Senate President Bukola Saraki, before becoming that, was actually organizing, along with former Senate President David Mark, along allegedly with PDP governors, in a meeting that lasted all night, arranging their own and, by implication, forcing APC's hand. Now, being handed such power is not going to sit well with the actual ruling party.
No, the establishment is against it. But what we need to understand, Yori, is the fact that the National Assembly doesn't necessarily only follow party lines.
Of course.
Many times they follow ethnic lines, they follow religious lines, they follow regional lines. So, for instance, for the PIB, the northern parts of the APC and the PDP united against the PIB. They felt the South-South or the South-South was getting too much of an advantage in that. So they broke party lines. In many cases, it doesn't really matter which party it's there. It's really, a lot of it is really the leadership, because the institution is so weak. It's a leader. You see David Mark basically, stamping out any sort of opposition, any kind of voice against, is what he wants. If people create, trying to raise bills and raise issues, and he will stamp it down with some sort of technicality or some sort of legal authority that he has. So it's a leader that really matters.
And in this case, Senator Bukola Saraki clearly did not choose to borrow a leaf from the president, who on numerous occasions in the past, between his being elected and now, has responded to questions put to him by journalists with, that's a party matter.
Yes.
And I'm going to be, that's not for me to answer. Yeah. I'm going to have to wait on my party.
Yeah.
So he's indicated that he respects party supremacy.
I think he's made a mistake. I really think so. I said it weeks ago. I said it weeks ago. We don't have. He's trying to.
That is the.
No, his hands-off approach, I think, is quite. I think it's a mistake. I really think that in Nigeria, where we're still building our democracy, it's not that advanced. He needs to get involved. He should have got involved. He should have basically guided the leadership of that assembly and, somewhere stamped his authority, and this is what he wants. It's in his own interest.
Okay.
It's in his interest.
David has been waiting for a long time to join this conversation. I apologize for keeping you waiting, David. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to the gentleman in the studio.
Good morning.
Yes, Mr. Yori, you've been wasting my credit, but all the same, I want to bring us to this issue that we are not looking at the other part of this issue. The party leadership called a meeting earlier, which the Saraki group and the other man boycotted. Some even walked out of the meeting. How else do you expect a party to act? So many people keep blaming the party leadership and all the likes like that, but I keep feeling bad because some set of people feel they are bigger than the party. And most of them came up from the platform of this party. So I'm so angry because it's so painful. This is not what we voted for. These guys felt they are bigger than the party, and it shows clearly that they are still the old folks we know. Nothing has changed. It's so painful.
Except that they are now members of APC. That has changed. They're no more PDP. They're now members of APC. We've commented on that particular statement. We'll go to another commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be back. Welcome back, and we're looking at the National Assembly election yesterday. Upheaval in the electoral process in the National Assembly. The APC has reacted and has referred to it as indiscipline and treachery. But for all of that, we have in place Senate President Saraki and Representative
Speaker.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives. Both of them not being choices or preferences of the actual ruling party. Okay, dying minutes now. We wait to see how it's going to work. Statements have been made that, you know what, this is not what we voted for. At least a few people that have called in have said, and you've alluded to the fact that people voted President Buhari in because he was going to lead the whole change machinery. And he himself has been playing according to the script that, look, what is the parties to comment on? Let them comment on that. What I will comment on as president, I will comment. But that's not the sort of, that's not the way Senator Saraki decided to go. They're going to have to manage that.
Well, they will. They will have to manage it, but I'm very sure Senator Saraki will be looking over his shoulder.
Oh, yes. Because he has a lot of... He now has to mend fences.
Absolutely.
To the extent that they are mendable.
Absolutely. But if you notice in the House of Rep, there was actually a clear vote between Honorable Dogara and Bajabia Biela. So that one was.
And Bajabia Biela
Yeah,
lost by just 8
8
votes.
votes. Just
So
by 8
it shows
votes.
that it was very, very close.
You say it was very close. You say it was
there was a
democratic.
rally to try and see if they could get back.
Absolutely. So I don't know how that's going to pan out, because obviously Dogara went against party wishes, but he did win a clear vote compared to Saraki, that there was no APC established party member, or senator on the chamber.
He was elected unopposed.
Absolutely, which is rather unusual for a very contentious position. But Buhari should have intervened earlier. I think the fact that he just left it out and believed that the system would work itself was a big mistake. You have to guide it because it's in your own interest.
Okay, Mr. Ayodele from Agbado, thank you for holding on. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
So my own contribution to all this is that PDP has just showed themselves on the left. Because to me, I believe there is no more opposition. Because in a situation that the House, they should have a full House now. So where will be the opposition? Because it will be as if they are running the government with the APC. So thank you.
Okay, well, they certainly will not be running the government with APC. President Buhari is firmly in charge by popular vote and popular will. And he himself has said that he would have preferred that the party line had been followed, but that he would work with the leadership that has emerged because a constitutional process has been somewhat has somewhat occurred.
Yes. Yeah. Overall, it's healthy, for democracy to have a strong opposition, especially in the legislature. But that's not what the people voted for. That's not what they asked for. They asked for complete change in the executive and the legislature. I'm sure if they had their way, they want a change in the judiciary too. But the thing is, that's not what people wanted. They wanted a strong APC movement in the House, in both houses. So everything's been turned upside down, and because of party intrigues and because of issues of party establishment and preferred candidates. But,
okay, we have someone calling in from Kogi State, Okele. Bashir, good morning.
Yeah.
We're waiting for you, Bashir.
Morning, I'm Bashir. So my contribution is that the leaders of APC caused all this off. Because if they should allow the law member, what happened between Buhari and some contestants when they did primary election back December 2014? So they should have used that formula to select those people. Because if you see what happened on mock election, so everything goes out with a kangaroo way. So Saraki faction was angry. So that was why they collide with PDP and get their victory and got their victory. So my position is that the GMB has already said that he's ready to work with whoever emerges. So why did those people still clamoring to meet him?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for calling in. I didn't understand that last bit. Why did those people insist on meeting with him, did you say? I didn't understand that. Okay, as I said, I didn't quite understand. Yes, the president has said that he will work with, clearly the president is also displeased about the matter. Even though there are those, at all sorts of pepper soup joints and palm wine bars saying that, look, how could what happened have happened without the knowledge of Aso Rock? Not that the president has moved in yet, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
But the president, at least we have to go by what we have. The president has said that...
the good thing about the president not being involved is the fact that, he's not beholden of whoever is the speaker or the Senate president. So you are not his candidate, you are not his person. If he wants to deal with you, he can deal with you with total independence. It's not the fact that, I influenced this individual to come in and, so it's not beholden to anybody. So if there's any scandal, if there's any issue and, and there's a problem that with the law, it doesn't feel as if he owes you anything because you came in by yourself or you came in through the party.
Sure.
So that's maybe Buhari's position. Like, look, I'm not involved, but if we go against the law, then, you are onto yourself.
Exactly. Amadi from Lagos, I believe. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Please, I don't know why everybody keeps calling Buhari. What happened to the chairman of APC? What happened to the leader of APC? What happened to those who have voted in from their different constituencies? New people voted into the National Assembly. What happened to them? Why? Why couldn't they come up with something new for Nigerians who voted them in there, that we wanted a change and not the old stock? People who have spent 3 terms in the National Assembly, they have to be blamed. Their constituencies should blame them, call them home and blame them, both in the PDP and the APC. That's the truth about the matter.
Thank you, Mrs. Amadi. Probably why the APC refers to this as not just indiscipline, but also treachery, because there is the issue of why.
Yep.
Why have you expended our goodwill in this way is a sort of unspoken question. Absolutely. In fact, it is even spoken by people like Mrs. Amadi now. Absolutely. And just about everybody else that has called.
But the thing is that I honestly expected horse trading. I expected,
yes, anybody would have.
Yeah, I expected.
But not an upheaval.
Yeah, this is totally, out of the ordinary.
Horse trading is one thing.
Yes.
The whole stable, taking the whole stable away is an entirely different matter.
They should have come to some sort of arrangement. The establishment and the rebels. They should have come and said, look, you take this position, you take deputy, or you take speaker, you take deputy. So they should have come to that arrangement. And the fact that they couldn't come to that sort of compromise has led to this absolute fiasco for the ruling party.
Okay, if you don't want to agree with upheaval, at least you go with fiasco.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it is really against the norm of normal democratic systems. I mean, you can't be a majority in the House.
And arguably against the wishes of the people.
Absolutely.
And so APC has to really see what it can do about that.
Absolutely.
To quickly bring everybody back on board that, look, the vision is still intact.
Absolutely.
I think that's the most important thing. We don't have the time. I'd like to have spoken some more, but thank you very much for coming on, Demola Oshodi, policy analyst. Yori Folarin, bye-bye for now.